Alrighty, welcome to another episode of the One Last Cast podcast. My name is Jonathan, and as always, we have Merriel Solesky here. Say hi, Merriel.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Well, it's I will just to kind of preface everything. My voice is a little bit scratchy today, and I apologize ahead of time. But we had fall for like 2 days, and now it's back in the 90s again, and it sucks because we're in the middle of October, and it doesn't feel anything like fall.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't quite feel like fall. I'm hoping next week the weatherman's right and it should feel like fall.
Yeah, that I'm hoping that's the case. So today we're talking about the now on the podcast we've always talked a lot about like the fishing highs. Obviously, these are all highlights. With the advent of social media, everything you see online is kind of the highs of everything. You look on Facebook and you see people every single day catching limits after limits after limits, and apparently that's the norm. But I can assure you, there are bad days for even the best of fishermen. Um, and I think we should we wanted to dedicate an episode just to talk about the bad days, because everybody has them. Everybody's human, and it's all about learning from your mistakes, your experiences, and all that helps you become a better fisherman. But before we do, let's give a shout out to our sponsors of the One Last Cast podcast. Which, by the way, this podcast is live. We try to go live every other Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we are on Facebook, YouTube, as well as your favorite podcasting channels. You can find us at facebook.com/, One Last Cast podcast, or on YouTube, just search up One Last Cast podcast. We're on there as well. And again, giving a shout out to our sponsors, Knocking Tail Lures. Uh, the flounders are starting to move. They're not quite right yet, but I've been catching a couple here and there on the Knocking Tail Lures. If you're looking for a soft plastic that has a built-in rattle and swims on the fall, go ahead and pick up a pack of Knocking Tail Lures. Just go to knockingtaillures.com and just get some packs there. Stock up for that flounder run. Also, want to give a shout out to DSKA, Dirty South Kayak Anglers. If you're looking for a Facebook group to talk kayak fishing up and down the Texas coast, go over there. Search up Dirty South Kayak Fishing on, Dirty South Kayak Anglers. Dirty South Kayak Anglers on Facebook. 4A Printing, Aaron does our custom merch. If you see some of our posts, I know Merrill, we're going to get into this. You recently went on our tarpon trip. I saw that you had our nice towel up there. He makes our custom towels as well as other custom things. So reach out to 4A Printing and Aaron will take care of you. And finally, if you're looking for real estate here in the Houston area, um, reach out to Merrill's wife, Brittany Solesky. If you're looking for commercial or residential, just give her a call at 281-740-0498 or Brittany at grindstonereg.com. That's BRITNEY at grindstonereg.com. All right, Merrill, kind of making a good segue into some of the highs, and then we talk about our lows. You recently went on that tarpon trip, and it seemed like a fun time. How about you talk about that?
I'll be honest, it wasn't quite as. I mean, it's fun that we caught fish, but we fished about a good. We started off at 7 o'clock in the morning. We didn't really hook up till like around 3 o'clock in the evening, 3 or 4 in that range, and then we stayed out till pretty much it got dark. So that was it. But it was one of those evenings where we went out and we hit up a coastline trying to look for some activity, some tarpon activity. And we stopped in one spot and we saw a couple of them roll, but not quite the school we were looking for. So we tried to cast on them, troll around them, didn't get no hits. And then we spent the next 6-7 hours looking for them, going up and down the shorelines. Then we came back to where we originally saw them, and then took a little while, and then we got up on them, and we hooked up. It was kind of pretty much a double, and my thought process was we were gonna catch them for the next hour, but it was just those 2 bites, and they never came back up. So the highlight is we caught 2 fish. but it was definitely a grind and a learning experience for me. Um, Still learning these tarpon and the way they move and the way they migrate and how to catch them and stuff like that. Still a learning experience. This would be my third year on focusing on targeting tarpon and trying to catch tarpon, and this would be my roughest year on catching. Even though I landed one out of the whole year, it's my toughest year for tarpon catching tarpon on the Texas coast. Yep,
Well, I mean, just catching one tarpon would be it's on a lot of people's just bucket list.
that's
So
true. I
you're
guess I'm making it
you're difficult.
depressing, right? Like, yeah, oh
Yeah,
yeah, you little spoiled brat,
yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and put up the picture right
Oh,
here. This is Merrill's tarpon that he caught more of last week, I think, and that's just a beaut right there.
yeah, that's a
Um,
nice size one right there.
and of course, um, you're not too far from Galveston, so
Yes, that's
it's
true.
this is in Texas. So we have these nice Texas tarpon here. Just gotta, like Merrill said, kind of figure out that pattern and get on them.
Right, right. That picture actually shows the water looking really nice, and maybe I did a little photo editing, put vivid. The water was not that nice. Picture did a better job of what that water looked like than what it looked like when we were out there.
Merrill actually he Merrill actually went over to Florida and it made the water dirtier to throw everybody off. So
Yeah, that's what happened. Florida, and then just say Texas coast.
yeah.
Like that old where
Well,
they switch the lure, right? They catch it on live bait
oh
and put
yeah,
the lure in the
exactly.
mouth. I'm like, oh yes, got a fish on this lure.
Secretly, Merrill all he throws is banjo lures,
They
and
work.
that's all he catches everything
You
on.
ever see? You ever see? Is that the one where they had the fish and it has the two little bite marks on it? Like they have a
I don't
little.
know.
No, no, no. Those are funny.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so I kind of mentioned it earlier about talking about social media and how everybody's a professional out there and they just go out and catch limits or just catch these big trout. Um, a lot of people know how to work those angles and make those fish bigger.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's actually worth talking about how tough it is sometimes. And I know the reason why this came up, we were just talking the other day, and you've had a tough year. I've had an extremely tough year. This is actually probably one of my roughest years I've ever had fishing, and that's for a variety of reasons, of which we'll go into. Um, but let's start with you. How's fishing been overall from 2023? And let's just kind of talk about it and kind of lean in towards what was tough about it and what valuable lessons you gained from a year such as this.
Yeah. So it's the tougher days that I learn the most. I always say that. And it's the tough days that you learn what not to do, and then you learn why. You try to. It's a good indication of what you're doing wrong, and not to do that again, or maybe adjust right until things do work out. It's been a tough year for me because I stopped focusing on fishing inshore as much. I just felt like I wanted to focus on catching tarpon more. So like if I inshored fish, I can go out for 3 or 4 hours, maybe catch a couple fish, maybe have a really good day, or maybe catch a handful of fish, and I'd be all right. But tarpon fishing is different, right? Especially on our coast, the Texas coast. To try to hone in on the season when there's a lot of them and you have more of an opportunity to catch them. I'm not talking about, hey, went out on the beach and caught one off the shoreline and got lucky. I'm talking about going out there, focusing on these bigger ones, not the ones that hang out around the jetties, the smaller ones, but the ones that are in past the 100, 150 weight class. And I fought one with my shout out to my boy Mark Baker. He's the one that actually got me hooked on one. My first one was actually in Port O'Connor. But my buddy Mark took me out, showed me the ropes, kind of showed me how to hone in and catch these tarpon and how to see them on the water and whatnot. And the next following year, I saw more tarpon than anything, and I hooked up a lot last year compared to this year. I seen a little bit more, not as much as last year, but I hooked up way less. And that's what made it a tough year, is that I chose to focus on fishing for tarpon. And one of the things that I learned from it is time, right? I feel like I didn't have enough time to be out on the water with those fish. So when they did feed, I was there. And that was the one thing that I've taken from this year, is if I'm going to tarpon fish, start early and wait till the sun comes down, or maybe even fish the night with the proper protection, to find out when they're feeding and when they're biting, and to have a more of a success. So I actually didn't hook up to anything this year other than what I caught recently. And it seems like the boat was can move and maneuver better versus in a kayak. I'm kind of limited to this small area, and if I go back, load up, come back into the beachfront, load up the kayak and shoot somewhere else, the day's pretty much gone. You know, so it's time was something that I learned. And it was a tough year for me, especially trying to focus on one fish and try to catch that one fish.
Yeah, and I actually, focusing on one fish, whether it's tarpon, trout, redfish, flounder, whatever it may be, especially if you're starting from basically the first rung, starting from the bottom, go trying to work your way up and gain that knowledge. There's going to be all these pitfalls you're going to fall into. You're going to have days where you're going to actually not even days. You're going to have long stretches of time. It could be weeks, months, whatever that may be, where you're not getting anything. Lucky enough, you had Mark Baker, who has the knowledge and he has experience, so he kind of cut into that learning curve a little bit. But if you were going to start from square one without his help and knowledge, I'm sure that you would have been bouncing around everywhere, trying to figure out the pattern and figuring out what works. And it may be that you're there too early, you're there too late, and you're going to run into long stretches where it's just not working.
Yeah, I'll
Um,
admit though, Mark will probably tell you I'm a poor student because I really don't. He'll tell me something, and I'll end up doing my own thing anyway. So he always tells me, "Man, I told you this and that." I'm like, "Man, I don't even listen to you anymore." I try to figure out things on my own and make my own mistakes. I feel like I learn better that way. But as far as like spotting them, my gear, stuff like that, he's been a big help. And yeah, but it was just a tough year for me. It was a tough beat this year, just but it's part of the learning game, right? And you got to be persistent. And if you want to be successful, you have to be persistent.
oh yeah, it's not even. I think persistence is one thing, but also just have an open mind, be willing to learn.
Absolutely,
Um,
absolutely, yeah,
and, and I think the most important thing is to find like-minded people, such with of like-minded people, so that not only you can share the experience, but you can learn together. I mean, I know some of us out there, you're lone wolves, and you do better by yourself. But I whenever I was getting up to like 2013, 2012, 13, when I really started picking up fishing for me personally, and my whole college schedule was based around my fishing schedule. I met some anglers who were just as enthusiastic about fishing as I was. Some of them were better, some of them were worse than I was at the time, and we just learned together and shared knowledge. We couldn't always go out together, but we would always go out at some point during the week. Be like, yeah, I was out here. They were hitting on tops. I was working them real fast. Um, and then I'll get that knowledge and I'll go out there, figure out the pattern. Hey, by the way, you said they're on the flat. Well, along the way to that flat, when I was waiting out there, I found this little gut, and they're just stacked up, 3-4 pound trout out here. They wouldn't touch top waters. All they were, we just throw corkies. Or hey, I think it's getting hot now. They're, all the fish that are there, I think they moved up into like really shallow grass in the early morning. but you have to go weedless because it's all grass. And it's just this, just us every single day talking, hey, when's our next trip? What are we going to do? I've been catching them out here. We're doing this, and having that knowledge bank built up.
Right, right. I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had a.
yeah,
That's funny you mentioned that. I had a group of buddies that when I first started. Well, first I fished by myself, but try to learn a lot by myself. But having met a group later on in the fish game, and it was me, the professor, Justin Simpton, a couple of other guys. So we're just fish heads, man. We fished every day, like every morning was a must. Every night was a must. Like it was just like, hey, you going? Yeah, I'm going. Hey, you got kayaks? I mean, like it was like we were out there. Hey, let's go wade this, area. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. Um, and yeah, having like-minded people to bounce ideas off was also helpful,
exactly.
right? Like, cause hey, man, I noticed you work your lure this way, and like the way my buddies work the lure made me change the way I work my lure. What they threw made me change what I threw. And just learning how they did certain things that I didn't do was interesting because like here I am with just a chicken boy lure, and just throwing that was one of my main lures that I've ever thrown. Um, and just switching it up, trying new stuff like Fat Boys, Top Waters. Like those are the guys that I think Logan too was one of the guys that got me into throwing Top Waters. So yeah, a lot of guys and guides that are guides now. Um, we all kind of start off in a group and bouncing ideas off of each other and theorizing what fish do and trout and reds and mainly inshore fishing. But yeah, it's definitely a very good helpful tool for sure.
Yeah, and nowadays, it's more, especially with like it's on Facebook and Instagram, whatever. You have these big giant Facebook groups, and it's kind of like pulling teeth to get information out of people, which it's I can understand because fishermen by nature were very protective of information. Um, we kind of have to be just because of we don't want 1,000 people overrunning some of our areas that we like to fish. It just ruins it for everybody. Um, but having that group of people, I think the big thing that I took away from what you were saying is to bounce ideas off of each other. It's just not even whenever you talk fishing, it's not like, oh, they're over here and I was throwing this. It's more about whenever you're learning together, especially something you're really passionate about. I think Jay in the chat here, people have to have the same passion and interest as you. They're the ones who learn the quickest. That's what he put in the chat, and I think that's completely true. And whenever you learn together and you quickly learn together, it just becomes like that. You follow the exponential curve, and your one person's perspective is different from somebody else's, and their experience on the water, it just makes it that much better because you have a different perspective. Hey, usually I'm doing this, but I've had this experience where they're actually, they're not doing this thing that you're thinking of. They'll be over here, and then you can try different things, and oh, that works. You know, it's just another little bit of evidence to add to your overall like levels that you're just building up.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I guess.
Justin's giving you kudos in the chat. Merrill was and is an absolute pillar in my fishing career.
Oh, thanks, Justin. I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate it a
Yep.
lot. You were also a helpful tool in my growth in the fishing industry. I appreciate that. We're not. I'm not seeing the messages on the feed up here on.
Yeah, I think our Facebook link is broken right now, so I have to look at the live stream on another one, so
Okay, all
on
right,
another
cool.
page.
Yeah, I'm not. I was like, I'm not seeing what you're seeing, but okay.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I appreciate it, Justin. A good, hey, good guide fisherman right there. So one thing about Justin is he was very passionate about weather, tides, locations, structure. Like those are the things that he was really passionate about. Winds, like he breaks it down to biometric pressure. Like he was like one of those people that has to know like every little piece of the puzzle of why are they not there, and try to put it together. So that Justin is very passionate. You try to look for a guide and you want to learn those things. That's definitely book a trip with him, and he's been very successful lately. And good job, keep up the good work, Justin. And book that guy. What is it? Sunrise Fishing. Put your handle on the feed for their for us there, Justin. People could book. They want to book you and catch some really cool fish.
I believe it's Sunrise as an SON rise fishing.
All right.
Um, but yeah, I think just having that group is paramount. Um, and it's just I think it makes it more fun too. Obviously, as kayakers, we um, we tried to promote safety in regards to like never go alone, which I break all the time because I do like on occasion fishing by myself. Um, but
I'm guilty too. I'm been out there going the thing, I try to ask people, and it's just like people work during the work week. So it's like, bro, it's like work week. People are working, and there I am going out on a
yeah, I can't
Wednesday.
even say where's the invite for that tarpon trip because I'm pretty sure you invited me, but I couldn't go.
Yeah, that one was on a Friday, so I know for sure you couldn't go. I was like, I didn't even think about asking you, but no.
But but yeah, I think you know from your experience, it's very similar to mine. This year for me, and I've talked about it in ad nauseum on the podcast that this year my winter was pretty good. No, I usually catch a few, 6, 7 plus pound trout per winter. That's not a lot for some of these guys who just go every day and catch these big trout. But for me, catching 2 or 3 is around my average per winter. I didn't catch any this year, but I caught a lot of solid 3, 4 pound trout. And that was great. Figuring out a new pattern over in the areas I like to fish. Um, and I went into spring kind of on a high, but then with that high, I was like, you know what? I'm going to concentrate this year on catching redfish, do these redfish tournaments. Um, and um, I've learned so much during that redfish series, the Galveston redfish series. Um, it was great. Learned a lot about redfish behavior, areas they like to, they like to frequent. I partnered up with a great fisherman, Jake Adame. He's a really really good guy, and he's still in high school and has tons and tons of knowledge. Um, but because I was focusing on that, I neglected fishing for trout from like basically March until July. And whenever I went back into trout fishing, I was completely lost. And that's kind of carried over until now. Um, where because I've been fishing for them, I had to rely on past knowledge, which is helpful up until a point because patterns change. We were talking before the show, and I was telling you like patterns change every year, which is not exactly true. Patterns change. Um, you know, it could be every year, but it could be every few years. But sometimes patterns just change, like even on a week by week basis, depending on the area that you're in. And relying on past knowledge only got me so far in regards to just figuring out the trout bite. And also combined with I obviously back in the day, 2012, 2013, 14, 15, maybe into 16, I was going 2, 3 times a week. And now I'm lucky to go once a week. And making mistakes is magnified because those those trips out where I don't catch anything, it just gets me so down because I'm like, that's a quarter of the month already gone.
Yeah, I know the
Um,
feeling, man. I know the exact same feeling. It's tough. It's tough for all of us. So you're not alone out there. Um, yeah, it's nothing like a bad day on the water. But some people say a bad day on the water is better than a good day at work. Um,
I
I
can
used to,
I can disagree with that a little
yeah.
bit.
So I used to be like what Jonathan said, like that. But man, I've had a lot of bad days this year, and just being on the water, sometimes I just go in awe, like seeing big manta rays come up out of the water and dive. big old schools of flounder, like move in big old schools of what are they called, the stingrays with the cow nose stingrays, right?
Cow nose, yeah.
Cow nose, just seeing those jacks just come out of nowhere feeding. I haven't had the pleasure of seeing those big old schools of redfish in the bay, the ocean. You know how they're
Oh yeah.
huge and they come up and they're feeding.
Yeah, there's some great videos from like 91st Pier and 61st Pier, which is just big old giant schools of redfish just tearing bait up in the
Yeah,
surf.
I haven't
Oh
experienced that
man.
yet, but I mean, it's still beautiful out there. Uh, and even I got like, so I got caught out in the storm. I don't know if I talked about it on the last episode, but I was out there tarpon fishing, and the weather turned on me, and I got caught out on the storm. And even being out there was just like, I still felt better than being at work and working. It got a little sketchy, got a little rough, but my experience came through and made it through the storm. Um,
Yeah, and I think that having that part of it too is experience on the water. Obviously, you can take it a little too far and it's like, yeah, I've been in worse, and you have a storm cell going through and it's 40-mile-an-hour winds, and it's like you shouldn't be out there.
yeah, the
But
weatherman lied to me on that day. It was one of those things where, and it wasn't like a big storm. It was like just a short little thing that came through and came through fast. And it was
yeah,
like, gosh, and I didn't and I wasn't expecting big winds until like 6 o'clock. And that happened like at 12 o'clock. So the weatherman was like 6 hours off on that one. So it was, you know, you got to know how to adapt. And anyways, but yeah, it was
yeah.
good.
I was gonna say that your experience out in the water kind of sometimes makes you do these weird things like staying out there longer than you're supposed to. And I'm you're guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. But that's part of it is that's part of the fun of it too, is because the longer you what I'm trying to get at is your experience on the water. The longer you stay out in the water, the more you learn, and your experience brings you to future experiences that you wouldn't otherwise experience unless because you just gain more under your belt and you feel more comfortable doing things.
Yeah,
I remember when I started kayak fishing, actually even just fishing in general. If it started raining, I was done. That's it. If it was raining outside, I'm not fishing at all. And I'm sure people can attest, like, oh, it's just bad weather. I'm not going to fish. But
that's no longer the case for me.
no, no. If it's just raining,
Yeah,
I'm completely fine.
yeah,
I've had one of the best topwater bites I've ever had in the rain,
right,
um, and I'm always chasing that.
right.
That's what I'm always chasing. Actually, a couple years ago, I was out waiting with Jay, and we were waiting towards the pass, and we could see this giant storm line coming through. Um, and I wanted to go in because I was kind of freaked out because we would have to, you know, basically wade back 2 miles to get back to the car. But, um, and he was like, no, because if we go in, we're done. It's not worth it. Wade back and then wade back out to where we were. He's like, I don't fear any thunder. So it's going to be quick and it's moving really quick. We should be fine. And I was like, man, I don't know about this. I don't know
You're
about
like
this.
Jason Extreme.
And literally that storm whipped through. It got a little hairy for like 5 seconds and it was done. And right after that, and actually there's probably look on our Facebook page, facebook.com/one last cat podcast. I did post like a GIF of this video I had. It was the raining was slowing down. You could see the sun. There's a freaking rainbow. I was looking towards a rainbow, working at top water. The glass is glass calm after that storm went through. Freaking trout just demolished that spook. It's like I think that like kind of screenshot in my head of that moment right there with the rainbow and everything. I'm like, this is why I fish.
Yeah, that makes up for everything. And
Yeah.
that storm is kind of like reminds me of fishing itself. Me, okay, when the storm that I got caught in, uh, I was actually trying to come in already, but it just came at me, and I was already on my way in, had something to do. But that storm reminds me of fishing itself, right? Sometimes we go out there, and fishing reminds me of a storm. It might be cool and calm one moment, and then that storm is our rough times that we have, those rough patches. But then that storm passes you, and then you have calm waters again, and fishing's great again. You know, so yeah, analogy. And I don't even know if it's an analogy, but fishing's like storms that pass. We go through the storm sometimes, but there's always going to be a better day, and you
Yeah,
just
you're going through a low,
yeah,
but if you weather through it,
right.
there's gonna be better fishing right behind
Oh
it.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Now that I thought about it, I should have stayed there after the storm, and I probably would have been success. Like the tarpon would have probably came up and just I would have, yes, we're back on them. But um, the boats just burned out, like they were gone. There was like three other boats out there with me, and they burned out, and I was like, man. But I was on my way in, had something to do later that day too. So, but
Yeah, we have Stacy in the chat here. She's saying that I couldn't get back to the launch one day. The currents were too strong, and I went out against my better judgment and had to get help getting back to launch. Yeah, but you made it back.
yeah.
You made it back, and I think that's now a memory and experience that you have that you keep in mind whenever you're out there. If you ever feel that it's getting to that point, then you know that it's time to go back in. Um, and that I think that's part of the learning experience. Um,
Yeah.
just
Also, don't
yeah,
be afraid to ask for help, right? Like, if you're in trouble and you need help, man, uh, a person being alive is better than a person being dead for his pride, right? Or his
yeah,
ego or whatever. Look, man, you need help, call for help. I'm safety first always. I even inshore now. I start to take one of those radios just so if I need help,
yeah.
I can.
I need to get one.
I need to get a
I've
good one. Like saltwater
y-
ruins everything for
yeah,
me. Um, I don't know if they make anything. They should make stuff like Merriel proof because I swear I break everything. Like some people, like the fam light, like I broke, like, and poor fam, right? He fixed it like 3 or 4 times for me, right? And I just keep breaking it. Like the headlamps when I used to go night fishing a lot. They're like, man, this was the most durable one. It's gonna last you forever, lifetime warranty. Man, I broke that sucker in half a year. I break everything. But anyhow,
yep,
good thing. Good thing I have you know, something to keep going.
yeah. Um, and going back to kind of talking about the how your fishing lows kind of make you a better fisherman. Um, Besides just giving you the experience to do it, I think one of the benefits of having kind of adversity, and this is, I think, overall, this is with anything, with sports, life in general. When you face that adversity, that experience, I think, especially if you go into tournaments and from a competitive standpoint, it just makes you that much better. Because I think it makes you more patient in general. Because you've been in a situation, you've been in multiple situations where it's not working out. Um, Actually, now I'm thinking about it, probably not, patience not the right word, because I've been prone to, like, it's not happening, I'm gonna go move around.
Guilty of
So,
that. I am not one of those
yeah.
fishermen that are gonna sit there waiting a choke point or a channel or canal and I'm waiting for the bite to turn on. Just gonna wait right
Yep.
here. No, I get up and I move and I try to hunt and find the ones that are
Yeah.
biting.
But
Persistence.
I
I
I
think
do
persistence, right, would be
persistence, but also I think it just helps you be able to draw. You have a playbook now
right,
from all your experiences. Hey, that my pattern that I developed over the last few weeks, and I'm it's tournament day, and of course, since it's tournament day, everything's going out the window. They're not doing what they're supposed to be
right,
doing. What am I going to do now?
right,
And like, okay, I'm at this location, and I can go over here, this gut right here that I haven't fished this year. They should be there because I've caught them over there before. Or maybe they're on that flat, or that reef should hold fish. Or, oh heck, that storm's coming in closer, that front's coming closer than quicker than I thought. So now the wind's blowing from the north. Let me go over to this area and find that protection and work that area. I think those experiences just makes you that much better, especially for tournaments, but just in general. And let me
Are you going to
uh,
be tournament fishing again this year, next year? Are you fishing the Flatty Daddy tournament or not Flatty Daddy?
Flighted
Not the Flatty Daddy.
the Flighty Daddy was last week already, and I did not fish that.
The
I will be fishing
there you
the
go.
the
So
flounder tournament of Saltwater Survival Series. Which, by the way,
yes,
if you haven't signed up for it, just search up Saltwater Survival Series. The flounder tournament is this weekend, which is 10/28, I believe. Let me double check that. Yes, 10/28, October 28th, and go ahead and sign up for that kayak and wading tournament. I think you don't need a kayak. Yeah, it is a kayak tournament, but you can wade. Um, and It's a great tournament. Great people run that one.
great group of fishermen that fish that too, man. A lot of
Yeah,
people are kind of like a little group. I think they got the Salt Pack that fishes it too. A whole bunch of cool little groups that fish that, and you can mosey on in if you haven't fished a tournament and introduce yourself to a whole bunch of cool people and
yeah.
you know.
And like, if you listen to our last episode, I kind of told you where the flounder are right now. um, and I'll be honest, for that tournament, I was hoping we get one more good front to go through. Because the area that I want to fish, um, would holds the bigger flounder, and as well as redfish and trout. If everything kind of goes perfect, um, they're
Seawolf Park,
they're not.
buddy. Everybody knows it. You're
Yeah, oh yeah,
not
Seawolf
you're
Park,
not
definitely Seawolf
hiding
Park.
nothing from us. Nothing. Everybody knows Seawolf Park. That's where you're gonna catch
Yeah,
some big flounder.
definitely Seawolf Park because you got to pay to play, as in you had to pay that $20 parking fee to get over
So
there.
do they have it where you could park and walk out anymore?
I know they've kind of expanded those no parking zones. I don't
Oh,
know exactly how far away those are now, but yeah, in regards to that tournament, I'm kind of trying to pull an audible and figure out exactly what I'm going to do because um the area that I wanted to fish is not viable yet. But
because that storm's coming right after the tournament.
yeah, it's on like Tuesday or something like that. Right when flounder season closes.
Like perfect timing. Oh man, but yeah. But
Yeah, yeah.
go ahead.
No, go.
Yeah. So flounder fishing, man, they've been nailing them right now. Though I've been seeing a lot of people with success catching flounders. I haven't seen any like big ones. Did you see the Flatty Daddy numbers? I think
Yeah,
big flounder was like 4 pounds. I mean, that's a big
yeah,
flounder, right? But
yeah.
I've
It's a
caught
big
a
flounder,
five
but
pounder, 24 incher, 20. Like I think
well, the record ones that got brought in a few years ago was like 8.5 pounds.
right. So that's like half of that weight.
Yeah, and it's not uncommon for them to have like 20-pound stringers
Right.
for that tournament, and I think this year was 14.
14.1 or
Uh,
something like that, right?
yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah.
They're moving, they're just moving slowly.
Right, right,
So,
right.
um, which is unfortunate for the people who like fishing the flounder run. Um, they're gonna go out. It's gonna be the peak of the flounder run is gonna be in the middle of November. Not even the middle of November. It's probably the beginning of November, and at that point the season's closed. So
Right. Yeah. I haven't seen the shortage. Oh, didn't what's his name catch a really nice flounder? One of our listeners, Flaco Lerma. He recently caught a really nice size flounder.
yeah, I know. Um, I don't know if he listens or not, but one of the kayak gods, Zach Epionet, I believe, he caught a 5 pounder recently, his personal best.
Mm,
Um, and they've been out there. It's just been they've been far and few in between.
yeah.
So
Oh, and speaking of flounder, I wonder maybe we have somebody on one of our listeners. Maybe he can answer it for us. His name's Tong. Tong. I might not be saying his name right. Tong, I think it is. But for Texas City Dike, if we can get that, if they're going to do the flounder tournament this year, that month-long tournament they do, they usually catch some really nice weights on that one. Yeah, yeah, that just doesn't sound right. I don't want to. How would like how you spelled it? I just don't want to say it that way because it just sounds like underwear, you know.
yeah.
So
Um,
I don't want to embarrass you.
If they have a tournament, it has to be like a photo tournament where you just
Oh, that's right, because the season's closed.
yeah, the season's closed. So unless it's already started already. Um, but um, but anyways,
Yeah, well, maybe he can answer if the Texas City Diker is going to do anything. I know they did what is it? The big old fish, the big old trash fish we call them,
Black
black
Drum.
drum. Yeah, they do that tournament, and they do the redfish
Hey,
tournament, the big one. Go ahead. What?
they matter. They're not trash fish.
Sorry if I
Hey,
offended anybody.
they give good fights on the kayak. Okay.
Anyways, I do not. If there's one fish, I hate catching them up. I would rather catch hardheads.
No,
Yes, I would rather catch.
compared to a black drum,
Yes,
no.
dude, they fight the exact same, right? So even the puppy drum or the smaller like eating drum, I like those fights better. But the big ugly fights, they just like they run. Oh, I'm tired, and it's like you're pulling this big old tire out of the water, and it's like okay, I'm gonna run again. So you get it goes again, and it's the same fight. Like when somebody when I used to book a trip and then somebody catches one, oh, you got a big ugly. Well, how do you know? I just have a good feeling. Like the fight was always the same. But I mean, the smaller drum, we even catch them on our artificials. Those fight pretty good. Like I don't mind fighting drum. It's just when they get that big, huge size.
All right. Let me tell you a story.
Okay, go ahead.
Back in like 2014 or 15, I fished a lot in the Kima Channel.
There's
And
tons
with
of
my
those by the
oh,
way.
there's tons of them. Yeah, my buddy and I were over there. We were actually trying to figure out the trout bite over there. And what we were doing was you would anchor up on the edge of the channel, and we found where this kind of hump comes up
By
and it drops.
outriggers. Go ahead.
Yeah, nearby. And you would throw up current. Like we were using like 3-4 ounce jig heads. You cast up current, and the current's so strong it just brings your jig head through, and it goes over that hunt. And once it drops, you get these trout and just demolish the bait. Um, and we were doing that for a while, and where we were anchored, I could see the rocks, and every so often I just saw this like kind of white flash over by the rocks. Um, and the trout bite had slowed down, and I was like, "Hey, put down the trolling motor. Let's go over there. I've been seeing some stuff over there. I want to see what it is." And we go over there, and there's just redfish, not redfish, black drum, just swimming down the rocks. And I'm like, "Well, let's just pitch to him." So I pitched my 3/4 ounce jig head, and it literally like I bopped one on the head, and it didn't do anything. And another one came up behind it and just slurped it up. I set the hook, and we spent the next 2 hours just going up and down the rocks, just sight casting these black drum and having a blast. They just slurp it up, off the rock. You set the hook and you fight it for like 10 minutes, because at the time I was
Oh,
using
these were all big uglies.
yeah, these are just giant, big black drum, big uglies, just swimming up and down these rocks. Um, and at the time, I was using a spinning reel with a 1,000 size spinning reel with like 10-pound braid, and it was great. I just trying to like not horse them in, but also trying to horse them in at the same time. We had a couple break off, and it was just a good time, and just being able to see them they're just lazy swimming, lazy over the rocks, and then you just see them go down a little bit, and then you just kind of their gills flare a little bit, not actually flare, but they kind of open up a little bit, and you can feel the thump, and you set the hook, and yeah, it starts off as dead weight, yeah, because they're just big, but then they just dive right into that current, and the current help because now they know what to do. They're trying to swim with that current and making everything more difficult for you. Still a good time. So
Yeah, there's some really good fishing in that channel, man. Really good fishing. I mean, I think one of my first big uglies actually comes from when you used to go to that. I don't know if it's open, but it used to be public access across the boardwalk. There used to be this little pier that came out, and you were allowed to go out there. And then I think shrimp boats or boats used to park there back in the day. This is 10 years ago or something like that. and you can walk out into it and fish it. And that's where I caught my first big ugly. And the thing is, I didn't have a fishing rod with me, so we went to Walmart and I bought a fishing rod. So I had the factory 5 pound or 10 pound mono on it, and it was on the smallest reel. And this was like a little thing that I threw over to the side, right? If something's flounder or something right there. This was around when the flounder get thick there, so we were planning to fish for flounder, and then a big drum hit it, and it was at nighttime. It was me and my buddy Dake, and I remember fighting that thing. When I brought him in, the line was like an accordion because it was like stretching it out so much, and we finally got it in. But yeah, a couple of those, and I was done with them after I got like a couple more of those, and I was like, it's just one of those fish I don't like to fight, man. I really don't like that fight. Uh, please don't judge me.
The chat agrees with you that the small black drums are the best, are a good fight and also fun. The
Okay,
best
good,
eating
good.
size
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I love
So
the fight of a regular like slot size, even a 30-inch drum. I love those. Once they get in the 40 pound range or 40-inch range, I'm just I don't like them. I don't like fighting those fish.
but man, that just brings up so many memories of chemo and how great it used to be. I mean, it's still good, but it's just
Oh, it's definitely gets fished a lot lately.
yeah.
Because when I go do my little checkups, like it's just it's just those same spots that used to be good. There's a lot of people out there fishing it now, which is it's good. It's just I felt like it was a little bit different than when you were the only person out there in a little piece of plastic. Maybe Jay might still fish that area. He could tell us more about it. But I feel like it's just a little bit different now.
Well, I know we kind of got sidetracked on our initial topic of trying to talk about how to go through the low times. But I think the lesson here is it's there's always going to be better fishing down the road. Um, and it's unfortunate that we have to experience the low times, but the low times bring you to the good times. So
Oh, it's a pathway. Definitely
it's a
the path.
pathway.
It's the path to success and to do better and wanting to do better. The willingness to want to do better, and learn from it. Learn.
What's your worst, not like dangerous, but like what's your worst experience you've had on the water?
Um, I want to say I don't remember, but yeah, I don't. I'm trying to remember a worse day that I came in and I was like, okay, yeah, yes. The worst day actually was this year. I can't believe I didn't remember that. We went out 13 miles. We went to the Vancouver wreck and back for baby snapper. I think I caught one that was on the borderline legal, but I knew I wasn't going to keep it because by the time I got back, it would have been under. Um, and we did 13 miles for undersized snapper. And once we got on the reef or whatever, the wreck, I just realized I didn't want to do this. This is not for me. I don't want to catch a whole bunch of undersized snapper. And we trolled that way for kingfish, no kingfish, trolled a little bit on the way back. So I felt like that whole day was a loss. It was a bust. I did learn from it. Like I won't do that again in the kayak. So that's one thing I did learn from it. Even if I had a motor, I wouldn't do it. Maybe certain times of the year it's better, but yeah, that would have been my worst time. Yeah, all that work
Oh
for nothing.
yeah, and like I said, you learn from it. Mine um, was back in the day. When I ran my Tarpon 160. We figured out a pattern over on at the dike at Tech City Dike where trout would show up and hit top waters in like 10 feet of water um right towards the afternoon. And I went out there and it was supposed to be like um the weather forecast was like almost no wind and it picks up to like 20 blowing in your face the way that you're going out to that location. But the wind wasn't supposed to pick up until like late in the afternoon. Well, of course, the weatherman was wrong, and I got out there, and it was starting to pick up already. Um, and I paddled out there, and also another reason why ended up getting a Hobie at some point, because it just went from bad to worse in regards to I had to constantly paddle in the wind, and once you stop paddling, you got pushed back 100 yards. Um, but I kept pushing myself because if once I was in the area, I was getting these massive blow ups, and I was like, there has to be good fish here. I mean, there is good fish here. Um, and after like 2 hours of figuring, like trying to get up there and getting like dozens and dozens of blow ups, finally hook up with a fish, and I'm fighting and fighting. It's like, oh man, this is a good trout. This has to be a good trout. This is nice. And bring out next to the kayak, freaking giant gaff top.
Those are
I've been
good eating. I've never eaten
I've
a
been
gaff top.
I've been targeting this giant school of gaff top this entire well, and I was like, oh, maybe it's just like this a fluke, whatever. Unhook it, go back up there, another half an hour later, after dozens of blowups, another gaff top and another one.
Man, they get into big schools. That reminds me.
Oh yeah.
That reminds me of a trip with me and my buddy Nick. We were out by the San Luis Pass, but we were on the bay side, and we actually went and did a run to see if we could see any tarpon, and we're coming back in, and it was Alex Alamon, Daniel Opero. It was a whole bunch of those guys on DSKA. They were out there fishing with croakers, and I was just seeing them lined up out there with all these croaker buckets, all facing the same way, and they're catching gaff top. And then we saw a school of trout, and then I threw out there and caught some trout in front of them, and like, hey, give them a hard time. But they're out there throwing bait with catching gaff tops. It was a remind me of that funny story.
Yeah.
And then we're over here
Well,
catching 23-inch trout in front of them.
and whenever at Texas City Dock, whenever I finally realized it's all just gaff top and I'm wasting my time. I've been working, paddling so hard that I started cramping.
Ooh,
And luckily, I'm paddling into the wind, so I just turn the kayak around and I just kind of go back, just drift back. I get to the car, and the wind just picks up even more, and um, loading. So I had an SUV at that point, so I was loading it on top of the SUV, and I had J hooks because I sometimes carry two kayaks, so it's basically like facing into the wind. Um, I basically loaded up my kayak. That kayak fell off my car, bopped me in the head. And I'm like, it's so embarrassing. I was more embarrassed than
it
anything.
just adds to
And
the rough day it was already.
yeah, exactly. And then I tried again. It fell off my car again. It scratched my car. Um, and at that point, I just went back into my car. My kayak was just on the side, upside down. I went into my car and just sat there for an hour and just sulking because it's just a horrible day.
Or those days where you like get really rain. It was a tough day fishing, and then it rains as you're heading in. You ever have any of you guys have those days where like you have a tough day fishing and you're heading in, you got your butt whooped, and then it starts raining on you to top it off. So then now you got to put your kayak soaking wet inside your car. There you're just sitting there for a second, like, what a day,
Yep.
like that's happened to me before.
Actually, that reminds me of another bad day I had. We were fishing pre-front, had a good bite, and along the way in, the front got there, and we were basically going against it. And I got to the ramp, and we were, it was raining, like just pouring. And we got to the ramp, and we were loading up, and this is when I still had it on my SUV. So basically, where I was at, my vehicle was safe. So my straps are still outside, and I could just load up and put everything in. And I just put everything to the side. And so my like rods were trying to put my rods inside the car, the SUV, and I realized, where are my keys? I don't know where my keys are. So my buddy was already loaded up and ready to go. He was sitting in his car. We were going to go grab food somewhere, and I was like looking around, like, is it in my kayak? Did I put it? I usually put it in the the center console of the hatch right there. It wasn't there. Looking around, it's on a side pocket of the kayak. No, I was like, oh shoot, did I lose my keys in the water? Did they fall out of my pocket or something like that? And I was like, oh, I don't. And my buddy came out. It's like, hey, let's go. I'm like, I don't know where my keys are. So we spent the next 20 minutes. Well, I spent the next 20 minutes because it's just pouring rain, trying to figure out where my keys are. And finally, I went to his car and I was like, hey, I need to call a locksmith. I don't know how to. I don't know how to get. I need a key. So we call a locksmith, and I was sitting. Finally, I was soaking wet. He had an extra towel, and I kind of just sat in the passenger seat, and I realized the keys were in my waiter pockets. So I just went through all that,
That's
getting soaking wet, super cold because the front was going through, and my keys were in my pocket the entire time.
oh man, that one's a tough one. All right, well, that
Well,
go ahead.
yeah, we'll put a footnote right here, and I'm sure that we'll have other bad experiences. Hey, and if for those of you listening, put some of your bad experiences in the chat. I love to read them. Misery loves company, as they say, and maybe we'll even learn something from your experience.
Oh,
Um,
one more thing. Did who won the? Did we have a winner for the?
oh yeah, so nobody has won yet. Which so yeah, we have a contest going. Post a flounder picture in one. We have a post on our Facebook page at facebook.com/one last cast podcast. We have a post there. Just post your flounder pic, and it's open until the end of October. So you actually have a few more days.
Cool.
Post a pic of your flounder pic, and we'll randomly select one of y'all to win a prize pack. Um, be sure to share the post as well because that's one of the conditions to do so to win the prize pack. But we'd love to see your flounder picks and just go on out there and get some flounder picks on our page.
Yeah. I think there was one guy had two flounder holding them up like that. I think he should have won.
Well, we'll randomly.
I'm
It's
just
going to
kidding.
be
Don't put me
random.
in there. I was just joking. That was a picture of me.
Okay,
That was a
yeah,
picture
it's
of
going to
me.
be random,
Yeah, I was like,
and I'm going to make sure to take out your entry because
I just teasing.
I think that's kind of cheating. So.
Like, oh, I win again. Wow.
Oh, yeah. So here's a good tip and somebody's bad experience. Phil Guerrero was talking about his bad experience with learning to never eat Bucky's egg tacos again before a kayaking trip.
Yes. That I don't even like. Is it? I might be the very few people that likes Bucky's breakfast tacos. I don't like their eggs. It's one thing I just can't get past. I love everything else at Bucky's though. I stop there a lot. They got rid of a lot of drinks that I used to get to, like the bottle drinks. So, but I mean,
Yeah, they don't have Gatorade anymore.
yeah, they got rid of that. They got rid of like a lot of the like the Monster Mean Bean drinks that I used to drink a lot of. Different water bottles I used to get, like different water kind of drinks. Um, so I think they just got rid of all the coffee, right? They want you to drink their coffee.
Yeah,
Anyways, but I mean, it's still a good place. They still got good brisket sandwiches. So I mean,
I stopped going to Bucky's.
oh, you did?
Yeah, because I go whenever I go fishing. Obviously, I go during the weekends, and I always see somebody there that I know, and we end up talking for like 20 minutes, and then I'm behind on what I want for my schedule in regards to getting out there fishing.
That does happen. That does happen. Yep.
So, um, but anyways, thanks everyone for listening. Like I said, this One Last Cast podcast. We are live every other Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. We are live on Facebook at facebook.com/One Last Cast podcast, or on YouTube to search up One Last Cast podcast on there. And just want to give another shout out to our sponsors, Knocking Tail Lures. If you're looking for a soft plastic that has internal rattle and it swims on the fall, go ahead and order some lures at knockingtaillures.com. My favorite color is going to be the chartreuse and white. I've been kind of going through this bag. This used to be full, probably like a month ago, and just been the trout have been tearing them up. So, uh, and also definitely want to give a shout out to 4i Printing. He does our custom towels, and Aaron will hook you up with stuff like that, including he does buffs and shirts too, I believe. So go search up 4i Printing on Facebook. And another shout out to Brittany Solesky. If you're looking for real estate in Houston, whether it's commercial or residential, give her a call at 281-740-0498, and she'll be glad to help you. Also, she can reach her by email at Brittany@grindstonereg.com. That is BRITNEY at grindstonereg.com. Merrill, before we hop off, I know last time I kind of caught you by surprise, but any more nuggets of wisdom before we sign off for today?
Yeah, just weather the storm. Yeah, it's probably the best one I can think of is weather the storm. And there'll be bright, shiny, flat, calm days on the other end, full of fish.
So, yeah, if you made it to this point, or if you are just skipping around, TLDR, too long, did not read or did not listen in this case, what Merrill said, the whole podcast is just basically that. Weather the storm. All right, everybody, this is the One Last Cast podcast. Tight lines, and we'll see you out on the water.
Take care, guys.